They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But how long does it take for that dish to be ready? Weeks of meticulous planning? Or a single, explosive moment born from years of pain? Today, we have two stories about people pushed to their absolute limit. One is a tale of a cold, calculated plan to punish a thief who betrayed a sacred trust. The other is an impulsive, brutal act of rebellion against a lifetime of abuse. But the real question is, which one was more justified? Let's begin with the story of a so-called friend and a lesson that cost her far more than she ever stole. This happened many years ago. I was young, married, and pregnant. A perfect trifecta for feeling a bit isolated. Most people felt I'd married up, as my husband came from money. Because of that, I had a beautiful home and nice things, but not many real, genuine friends my own age. I was lonely, surrounded by beautiful furniture, but empty rooms. And that's when you can attract the wrong kind of people. I reconnected with a girl from my old high school. Let's call her Jessica. She started coming over, hanging out. At first, it was nice. We'd watch movies, talk about old times. It felt like a real friendship. One evening, she asked if she could bring a friend over for dinner, a girl I'd never met. And I was happy to, thinking maybe I could expand my small social circle. I cooked for him, we laughed. It felt normal. At one point, her guest asked to use the restroom. We pointed her in the right direction and thought nothing of it. The night ended with hugs and promises to do it again soon. I went to bed that night feeling a little less lonely. I had no clue that this simple evening was the beginning of a nightmare. About a week later, I couldn't find the earrings I wore on my wedding day. They were a gift from my husband, the pearl and diamond set. Sentimental value aside, they were expensive. We tore the house apart looking for them. My husband said I must have misplaced them, but I knew the last place I had them was at home. A knot of anxiety started to form in my stomach. Then, a few weeks later, the real blow came. I noticed one of our checking accounts, one we barely used, was massively in the negative, almost $1,000. My heart dropped. Most of it was overdraft fees. We started reviewing the charges online, my hands shaking as I clicked through the list. All of them from stores at the local mall. Sephora, Forever 21, stores where teenage girls would shop. Dozens of small to medium purchases, each one followed by a crippling $25 overdraft fee. The thieves had spent every last cent and then just kept swiping. It was pretty easy to figure out what had happened and just who was responsible. And it wasn't a huge leap to figure out where my wedding earrings went. The feeling of being so generously welcoming to someone only to be violated like this was sickening. Pissed doesn't even begin to describe the feeling. It was a cold, quiet fury. I called every store. One had just installed security cameras. I contacted my bank. I did my digging. I learned that in my state, the cutoff for felony charges was $2,000. The earrings were worth $800. The theft from the account, including the fees they racked up, was about $1,000. It was close, but not quite a felony. So, I contacted my friend, Jessica. My voice was calm, almost sympathetic. I told her the horrible news that someone we had over had stolen from me. I explained about the missing earrings, the debit card. She was so sympathetic, saying how terrible it was. Then I told her a little white lie. I said that between the earrings, the charges, and the fees, the total theft was over $2,000 and we were pursuing felony charges. She was quick to chime in, saying, "Oh, but I'm pretty sure none of those stores have cameras." Bingo. Thanks for confirming what I already knew. That's when I played my final card. I told her that one of the stores did have cameras, and they were preparing to hand the footage over to the police as soon as I filed the report. The line went silent. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. Then she got extremely quiet and said she had to go. Unsurprisingly, she called back shortly after and asked to come over. She showed up within 30 minutes with my earrings, the debit card, and a small diamond ring I inherited from my great-aunt that I hadn't even realized was missing. She had a well-rehearsed story, trying to blame her friend entirely. I wasn't having it. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You knew, and you did nothing." She started crying, arguing that she was in a difficult spot, that she didn't want to betray her friend. I just stared at her. Clearly, I didn't qualify as a friend. I demanded all the names and their parents' contact info. I called each parent and gave them a simple choice. Their children could work to repay the full amount, including every single overdraft fee, or I would go to the police with the evidence I had. Needless to say, they were horrified. It was quite satisfying to know that all four of them had to get jobs and work long, miserable hours to pay me back. My former friend even had the nerve to question the amount, claiming it wasn't fair. I took great pleasure in explaining, slowly, how their little shopping spree had cost them 3 or 4 times what it would have if they just used their own money. I got everything back, and I never, ever spoke to any of them again. A calculated plan that brought a satisfying and expensive end. Justice was served through logic and a single, well-placed lie. But not all revenge is planned. Sometimes it's not a plan at all. Sometimes it's a dam of pain built over years of abuse that finally breaks. And when it does, the flood can destroy everything in its path. This next story is about that kind of revenge, the kind that happens in front of the whole family.
Today is my dad's birthday. It reminds me of what I did a few years ago. I'm the oldest of 3, and my dad has been traumatizing all of us for as long as I can remember. It wasn't just the beatings. It was the constant threats to hurt us, even to kill us. It was watching him cheat on my mom and then use her money to buy alcohol or spend on his girlfriend. The worst part was the manipulation. One time he threatened to end his life right in front of me with a rope. I was 13. He said it was my fault, that he told everyone he was killing himself because of me, and that he would ruin my life even after his death. I didn't know he was bluffing. I just saw the noose hanging from the ceiling fan. That image, it never leaves you. By the time I was 17, I wasn't scared anymore.
It was his birthday, and the whole family went out to a fancy restaurant. My siblings, my mom, and his parents. His whole family. This was my golden opportunity. I always knew he was terrified of his family finding out how much he changed. He was a master at playing the role of a good, respectable person in front of them, only to turn into a monster the second we were alone. He cared so much what they thought. So, halfway through dinner, when he got up to go to the bathroom, I saw my chance. I didn't shout. I didn't make a scene. I just waited for the right moments to drop the bombs. My grandfather asked how work was, and I just casually added, "It's going well, especially now that Mom has better control over her finances." It was tough for a while, with Dad using her money for his girlfriend and his drinking. His mother then mentioned how happy he seemed on his birthday. I nodded and said, "Oh, he's always in a good mood in public. It's different at home. Like that time he got so angry he beat my little brother with his belt for spilling juice. The bruises were there for weeks." I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, watching the color drain from their faces. Then I looked at them with wide, innocent eyes and delivered the final blow. But the worst was when he tried to hang himself in front of me with a rope, telling me it was all my fault. He didn't tell you about that? Oh, I thought you knew everything.
I'm still proud of it to this day. His parents barely said anything for the rest of the dinner. They just sat there with tears silently rolling down their faces. When my dad got back from the bathroom, the silence was deafening. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife.
He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what. We went home in separate cars. When he finally found out what I'd done, he was furious. He tried to hurt me, but my mom, for the first time in years, stood in his way. For him, the fallout with his family was a private hell I never got to see, but I know it happened. It's not my problem that a man-toddler is throwing a tantrum because his perfect image was shattered. I bet he had the shittiest birthday ever. Two stories of revenge, born from very different kinds of pain. One was a cold, calculated plan to punish a thief who preyed on loneliness. The other, a daughter's desperate act to expose her abusive father in front of the people he deceived the most. But here's the question I want to ask you. Which one was truly necessary? Was the first story a justified lesson or just petty? And in the second, did the daughter go too far, or was it the only way to be heard? Is there a line that revenge should never cross? Let me know what you really think in the comments.